Sometimes getting it wrong can be so right. At least, that's what these filmmakers thought. While bloopers often make a funny gag reel at the end of a movie, sometimes they're just so perfect that they make their way into the movie itself. Bloopers can lead to amazing moments of improvisation, or just be so damn coincidental that they work so well that you didn't even realize they were a blooper in the first place. Whether it be a strangely metaphorical outtake, a brilliant one-liner, or a moment of sheer agony, sometimes when the bloopers hit the editing room, they're just too good to cut. In this video, we will take a look at some of the best bloopers in movie history and how these gaffes turned into some of our favorite scenes.
Why do I smell baby oil?
The Rock is well known for his brilliant insults and one-liners, with the famous behind-the-scenes candy-ass feud with Vin Diesel being an example of this. But it wasn't just when the cameras weren't rolling with the Fast and the Furious where The Rock honed his razor-sharp comebacks. While Tyrese and Ludacris are known for bringing the comic relief to the franchise, in one scene, The Rock left them both stunned. When The Rock's character Hobbs enters a scene, Roman, played by Tyrese, quips to Jordana Brewster's Mia,
Hey, Mia, you better hide your baby oil.
which probably refers to the ridiculous amount of baby oil The Rock and Vin Diesel reportedly used during their first fight scene in the franchise. However, The Rock went off script and came back with the priceless line,
I'm just playing.
You better hide that big-ass forehead.
I was just joking. Whatever.
Both Ludacris and Tyrese were surprised by the line, causing Ludacris to break character and do an actual spit take while Tyrese stood there stunned. The filmmakers liked the reaction so much they kept it in, cementing it as one of the best comebacks in movie history. Oh, it's a classic. After the events of both Infinity War and Endgame, we know the true power of the Infinity Stones and the ultimate destruction they can cause. So if you ever get your hands on one, it's probably best you be careful with it. But someone didn't tell Peter Quill that in Guardians of the Galaxy, as when he goes to hand the orb containing the Power Stone to the Collector, he drops it on the floor and then pops back up as if nothing happened. Yeah, not a smart move. What makes it funnier is that it was a total accident.
Chris is about to drop the orb. This is totally real. This was not planned. Chris actually dropped the orb. And then he, of course, recovered it with humor, but he actually dropped the orb. That was not planned at all.
The gaffe felt perfect for the scene and felt totally in character for Star-Lord, and so unsurprisingly, they decided to keep it in the final cut. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is known for its amazing cinematography and use of foreboding to set the tone. As an example of this in Two Towers, as war with Isengard looms, Éowyn stares off into the distance, pondering the future as the camera pulls wide to show off a cinematic view of the barren landscape in front of her. But filming outside on location often comes with its own set of problems, as we see one of the flagpoles flap viciously in the wind until eventually the flag rips off the pole entirely and flies away. This was completely by accident, but Jackson loved the shot and the metaphor it served and decided to keep it in. Two Towers also gave us another great blooper turned iconic scene. When Aragorn finds the remains of the Uruk-hai and believes that Merry and Pippin are dead, actor Viggo Mortensen turns and kicks a helmet in frustration and falls to his knees. This was actually a moment of improvisation by Mortensen, but he kicked the helmet so hard that he ended up breaking his toes and screaming in pain, making that cry of agony very real. Talk about method acting. The police lineup in The Usual Suspects is one of the most iconic scenes, and one of the ones that lives on in our memory. While this scene feels like it should be serious and full of tension, we see the characters barely able to contain their laughter and goofing around. But this wasn't in the script, and nor was it the work of director Bryan Singer. It was, in fact, apparently the work of a heavy lunch. The cast had just returned from lunch and were already very giggly and tired after a long day of filming. So when actor Benicio del Toro kept farting due to his meal, the cast couldn't keep it together. Apparently, Del Toro farted through 12 takes, only increasing the laughter of the cast. Singer was apparently furious with the intention of this being a serious scene, but during editing saw the funny side and decided to keep this famous scene in all its gassy glory. Zoolander is known as one of the best comedies of the early 2000s, with plenty of gags and comedic moments in amongst the models with perfectly structured cheekbones. Centered around Ben Stiller's unintellectual male model Derek Zoolander, the movie has plenty of absurd moments, and one of the best of them came from a blooper.
So why male models?
After David Duchovny's character J.P. Pruitt gives a lengthy monologue about how male models are orchestrated to perform high-profile assassinations, going into depth why they are a perfect fit, Zoolander instantly gives his response,
But why male models?
which was the question he had already asked. While this might seem like a scripted moment to show Zoolander's stupidity and lack of comprehension, in actuality, Stiller had just forgotten the next line, so he decided to repeat his first line instead. Duchovny, who wasn't expecting this response and looked taken aback, stayed in character, improvising his next lines, and the end result is so funny that it stayed in the final cut.
You serious? I just told you that a moment ago.
While we may know Indy is the Raider of the Lost Ark, we forget that this title should also go to his French counterpart René Belloc. While Belloc is the perfect antagonist for Indy, eagle-eyed fans remember him for one strange scene. In the scene where Indy ambushes Belloc and the Nazis, as Belloc talks to Indy, a fly lands on the actor Paul Freeman's face. The fly then goes into his mouth and flies out, but due to the choppy filming, we don't see the fly leave and it looks like Freeman ate the fly. While Freeman felt the fly, he thought no one noticed, but they did, and now it goes down in history as a funny, albeit weird blooper. However, that wasn't the only big blooper in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Big Indy fans will know this one. Initially, the gun versus sword fight scene in Raiders was supposed to be a huge fight sequence, but when Ford felt ill during filming, instead of filming the tiring sequence which involved his whip, it was replaced with the genius piece of improv that we all know, pulling out his gun and shooting the sword wheeler. That's why you don't bring a sword to a gunfight. Donald Glover is a man of many talents. Writer, singer, musician, he can do it all. But sometimes even he makes mistakes, with one of his best blunders coming during the filming of The Martian. Glover recounted the funny moments during his appearance on Conan, telling the talk show host that director Ridley Scott only does 3 to 4 takes before moving on, so you have to get it right quickly. This made Glover nervous, but reportedly he nailed his take, spitting into a wastebasket before doing some stage business. But when he went to leave, his nerves got the better of them, and when he got up to walk, he slipped and fell to the ground.
I need more coffee.
Are you alright?
Fine.
Glover stayed in character and ran with the moment, quickly shaking himself off and continuing with the scene. Scott liked the moment so much he kept it in there, giving some comic relief in an otherwise dramatic movie. Quentin Tarantino's 2012 film Django Unchained is known for, among many things, its amazing performances. One of the most captivating performances is that of Leonardo DiCaprio as the villainous Calvin Candy, owner of Candyland, a slave-ran plantation in the Deep South where Django must try and free his wife from. As Candy hosts Django and Dr. King Schultz for dinner, we see the depths of his cruelty and evil nature as he goes on a long racist monologue. But DiCaprio might have got more than he bargained for when he slammed his hand down on the table right onto a glass. While DiCaprio thought it was a prop glass made out of sugar glass, it turned out to be very real, and the glass cut deep into his hand, leaving it seriously lacerated. But Tarantino, sensing a great moment and not afraid of showing blood in his movies, excitedly kept the camera rolling. DiCaprio didn't break character, barely flinching, and even starts rubbing the real blood on Kerry Washington's face, leaving her genuinely disgusted. Django Unchained wasn't the only movie involving a huge blooper for Quentin Tarantino, with his 2015 movie Hateful Eight having a less bloody but far more expensive blooper in the final cut. Throughout the movie, Kurt Russell's John Ruth and Jennifer Jason Leigh's Daisy Domergue are constantly at each other's throats, and one constantly trying to antagonize the other. In one scene, Domergue starts playing a guitar to irritate Ruth, and in a fit of rage, Ruth grabs the guitar and smashes it to pieces. it. The issue is that the guitar in question was an almost priceless 19th century Martin guitar on loan from the Martin guitar and was a rare artifact. So the initial plan was to quickly cut and switch to a prop guitar. However, Russell obviously didn't get the memo and instead ended up smashing a $40,000 guitar to smithereens. Lee's shocked reaction is real, and Russell was left feeling guilty for his part in destroying this piece of history. Unsurprisingly, the Martin Museum vowed never to loan any of their artifacts to a film production again. Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049, the long-awaited sequel to the 80s movie, is known for its amazing cinematography, unique story, and by bringing back Harrison Ford's famous character Deckard. Excitement mounts when we see Ryan Gosling's Agent K meeting Deckard for the first time, as it culminates into a punching match with the blows looking all too real. That might be because one of them was real. As the two characters traded blows, with 79 out of 80 punches missing like they were supposed to, Harrison Ford got carried away with one and landed his fist right on Baby Goose's face. And you can see that in the final cut. In a blink and you'll miss it moment, you can see the exact moment where Ford makes contact and his genuine shocked reaction. He later said that was the face of, "Oh shit, I'm in deep doo-doo," which summarizes it perfectly. Thankfully, Gosling took it like a champ and the two laugh about it to this day. Although it probably wasn't very funny at the time. I mean, it is his moneymaker. He's a Hollywood pretty boy, Ford. You gotta be more careful.
What questions?
So what was your most loved blooper? Did we miss out your favorite one? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Be sure to subscribe to ScreenRant for this and more amazing content. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you next time.